Good day. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Douglas Harder, and in the topic, we will introduce the vector operations we will use in this course. So in this topic, we will revisit the field operations, introduce the vector operations, and describe the notation of a capital F raised to the power n. So, in a field, we had two operations. We had addition and multiplication. For vectors, we're going to introduce two new operations. One is scalar multiplication, that is, multiplying a vector by an element in the field, and vector addition, adding two vectors together. Now, important, we could define something called vector multiplication, but there are no significant consequences that can be deduced from having such a definition. Consequently, all the properties of linear algebra which we find useful depend only on scalar multiplication and vector addition. Now, we have looked at both real and complex vectors. In both cases, the real numbers and the complex numbers are fields. If we don't care whether or not we're using real or complex vectors, we will introduce the notation of f to the n, where it is understood that the field f could be either the reals or the complex numbers. Now, the entries of the corresponding field are also called scalars in this course. So very often I will refer to a scalar alpha, and that means either a real or a complex number, whichever one is relevant at the point of discussion. So we will be discussing how do we add two vectors and how do we multiply a vector by a scalar, or that is, an entry in the corresponding field. So, following this topic, you have now been introduced to the operations we will focus on next, vector addition and scalar multiplication. You know that we will use the notation capital F to the power n if we don't care whether or not the n-dimensional vectors are real n-dimensional vectors or complex n-dimensional vectors. And you now are aware that the term scalar is just another term to describe an entry in the corresponding field. Here's the references, acknowledgements, the colophon, and a disclaimer. Cheers!